Well, welcome back to Business Focus here on TV3. We're live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. Until 2 days ago, the city was if you take the first 15 best currencies on the continent, were actually the 14th. Now, the Ghana cedi is now the worst performing currency amongst Africa's top 15 currencies. Now, you need to understand the classification. This is amongst Africa's top 15 currencies just 2 months into 2022. Now, this is as a result of the depreciation of the cedi by about 7.6% to the dollar from January 1 to February 25, 2022. Now, the local currency has overtaken the Zambian kwacha, which was the worst performing currency on the continent just about 2 weeks ago. Now, both Ghana and Zambia, as I'll show you, have challenges in addressing the escalating debts, as well as struggling with revenue mobilization and expenditure management. These are the three areas: revenue mobilization, expenditure management, and the debts. The situation is impacting negatively on the exchange rate, interest rate, and inflation. Now, I'm going to show you the 15 currencies that were captured, which Ghana, unfortunately, is on the 15th. You see Namibian dollar there overtaking the South African rand. And by the year-to-date performance of 4.49%, it's the first ranked among the 15. South African rand is the second. Botswana pula is the third. The Tunisian dinar is the fourth. The Ugandan shilling is in the fifth position that's the best 15 currencies on the continent. The Egypt pound, 0.02% year-to-date performance in the sixth position. The Malawian kwacha is in the seventh position. Now, when from the Tanzanian shilling downwards, you see a decline, but that's in the Tanzanian shilling is the eighth position. The Kenyan shilling, the ninth position. Nigerian naira occupies the 10th position in terms of the 15 best performing currencies. Mauritius rupee is there in the 11th position. Cote d'Ivoire CFA is in the 12th position. The Moroccan dirham is in the 13th position. The Zambian kwacha, which 2 weeks ago was occupying that last position, has now moved upwards to the 14th position. Now, the Ghana cedi now occupies that unenviable position there, with a decline of 7.6% year to date for that 15th position. Now, that is what we're saying now after just 2 weeks ago when that 14th position. Additionally, the recent downgrades of the country's ability to borrow is also a major worry as investors are still unsure about the outlook of the Ghanaian economy. Now, I've been joined via Zoom. Professor Lord Mensah, if you could turn the screen around for me, that would be good. We really appreciate you joining us. Yes, Professor Lord Mensah is an associate professor at the University of Ghana Business School. He's joining us via Zoom to help us get a clear understanding of this situation as we have it now. We lost his video. We'll try to reconnect. Professor Lord Mensah, can you hear me now? Good evening to you.
Yeah, good evening, Alfred, and good evening to our listeners, our viewers as well.
Great. Now, so this is the ranking. The cedi now 15th amongst the Africa's top 15 currencies. We occupy that 15th position. And this is as a result of the increasing debts, revenue mobilization challenges, and the other related matters as we're faced with. How do you react to this development as communicated now?
Yeah, well, it's a very good question, but then I may want to know our position before the 15th.
Our position was the 14th. We're actually just we're just a step above the Zambian kwacha, which is now gone past us to the 14th position.
Right. So that means that something might be going wrong in our policy orientations. Now, you realize that going to the Eurobond market, which we've been using as part of the inflows to buffer our foreign exchange reserves at the central bank, is not an option this year. And if you look at the structure and the trajectory of our exchange rate, you will come to understand that the long-term trajectory is a way to increase it. But then also, on short-term basis, we used to get inflows from, we normally get inflows from the cocoa, what we call loans that we've been taking, and then the Eurobond market, and the little that we get from our export and all those. So that is what has been keeping us going. But you realize that all these things that has been helping us to keep our CD, stable over the years, this particular year has become a problem. And then also, if you look at a portfolio investment, which is normally hosted by foreign investors, basically also brings in, some kind of, foreign currency to serve as a buffer. But all these things have been going down as a result of how the global economic space has been, reshaping itself. If you look at America now as we speak, appetite to come and invest in our environment is not there because America is going to lift its interest rate up. And then also, going to the Eurobond market, I think the current administration, looking at the situation, they're thinking about, looking at the cost involved, in borrowing from the, international market to get that dollar inflow it's not working. So anytime you hear the cedi going up, you hear Bank of Ghana saying that it's going to pump in some, dollars in here and there. And then coupled with government, spending, which is more dollar-oriented, obviously, you should expect that this performance, will show up. So for me, I'm not surprised at all to see us, going down.
But is there any hope?
Most of the policy.
Great, but is there any hope? Is there any hope going forward with the World Bank Group approval of the 5-year country partnership framework for Ghana from this year to 2026, which will see some $4.5 billion being injected into the economy in the next 5 years?
There will be a hope, but then that will be within the 5 years. And then the dynamics are going to be that anytime we'll be expecting that dollar inflow from the World Bank, we'll see a stability in the cedi. The cedi will start picking up, with a dollar. But the long-term trajectory is still going to be upwards. So I'll tell you that there won't be any hope in the long term. But on short-term basis, we're going to see that kind of, up and down swing within, as far as the cedi and dollar relationship is concerned.
As a matter of fact, this report identifies the problems contributing to the cedi's depreciation as the escalating debts, the struggle with revenue mobilization, and the expenditure management. These three areas. Any specific plan or intervention you see government making to address these three areas, which have been identified as one of the three major factors influencing the depreciation of the cedi?
I think clearly government has come out with the expenditure cutting, procedures that they want to roll out this year. So for that one, I would say, the statement that came out from the finance minister, I believe that, they're going to look at that approach. But then also, if you look at, our long-term policies like increasing our export, diversifying our export and all those, I think we've not been doing well in that regard. And then also, looking at our homegrown policies, ensuring that at least 50% of what we consume, we produce it in the country. We've not been doing well in that direction. And I believe that that is the only way we can save, the cedi in the long term. But whatever we're doing now, be it the global market, be it our debt level and all those are short-term based. And I believe that if we reorient the economy to accept that, okay, fine, let's work hard and ensure that we produce at least some basic things within the country, we should be able to solve this problem. But for debt issues, I believe that once, the exchange rate is picking up, obviously, your debt, repayment and obligations will also take a toll on you. So the government hasn't got control over that one. And I don't think there will be any policy that will say, okay, fine, we're cutting down on our interest rate, unless maybe we go for renegotiation on our debt. But then I can tell you that renegotiation will be some way, somehow, a bit tough, because if you look at the kind of debt structure that we've accumulated over the years, most of them are private debt. I mean, people's pensions, other investors' money that has been coming here. It's not funds that are coming from Bretton Woods institutions and say that, okay, fine, we can, like the way we went to HIPIC and all those, we can give you that kind of relief, over the years. But this time, even if we should go for negotiations, it will come at a cost. I mean, and we cannot take it off, as we're thinking of.
Professor Lord Mensah, thank you. Thank you so much for your time this evening, and I appreciate you contributing to the conversation as well. So that's Professor Lord Mensah, is an associate professor at the University of Ghana Business School. According to the Bank of Ghana data as released, the Financial and Economic Data Report puts the level of our debt at 78.4% as at the end of November 2021. Debt to GDP 78.4%. But that excludes the bailout. So the lowest monthly debt amount is just about 3.4%. So all things being equal, we're going to go over the 80% mark. We'll see how the Bank of Ghana's data, that's the economic and financial data for the next period, will put our debt to GDP. But it's something we'll keep an eye on. But what's happening on the global front? We are not spared of it. The war in Ukraine is threatening further disruption to already stretched supply chains. Now, Ukraine and Russia may only account for a small proportion of the imports of major manufacturing nations like Germany, the US, and other places, but they are essentially suppliers of raw materials and energy for many crucial supply chains. Now, for as long as we are running an import-led economy as Ghana will certainly not be spared of the impact of what's happening between Russia and Ukraine. And how the rest of the world responds to this is extremely important. Now, I'm going to show you 5 essential areas, essential commodities that will be hit by this conflict. First of all is the area of energy. Let me show you this. Now, many European countries are heavily dependent on Russian energy, particularly gas, through several vital pipelines, and this may have colored their approach to the crisis, as you see. While a complete suspension of Russian gas flow is unlikely at the moment, even small disruptions will have a significant impact. In fact, global gas reserves are low due to the pandemic, and energy crises are also already rising sharply, impacting consumers and the industry globally. Now, because of this situation between Russia and Ukraine, already industry watchers are projecting a possible increase in the price of petroleum products at the pumps by about 6% in the next pricing window. Energy. The second one is food. Food. Now, global food prices already rose sharply during 2021 due to everything from higher energy prices to climate change. Now, food producers are likely to come under further pressure as prices of key imports rise. Russia and Ukraine together account for more than a quarter of global wheat exports, while Ukraine alone makes up almost half of exports of sunflower oil. Both are key commodities used in many food products. Some countries are particularly dependent on grain from Russia and Ukraine. I'm going to show you the pattern now. This is the pie chart of the exports. Now, who buys Russian and Ukraine wheat? These are the countries. And you see Egypt there accounting for about $2.55 billion of the wheat from Russia and Ukraine. Now, the next is Turkey. You have 685 million, and then the 1.4 billion. Bangladesh is there. Nigeria is the second African country you see there with 394 million of the wheat from Turkey and Russia produced from them. And you have businessmen or the businesses in the country who are also into wheat, depending on exports. into Nigeria and then importing into the country. So that's where Ghana would also be impacted because of what's happening, especially because we have an import-led economy. The third area is what we are seeing now from what's happening globally. Is transport. Now, what you see there are major export destinations of Ukraine. You have India, China, Germany, Turkey, Italy, Poland, and Russia. Now, the light blue area in this pie chart has all the other countries outside of these specific countries mentioned, including Ghana. The next area, the third area that this crisis would impact is transport. Global transport already severely disrupted in the aftermath of the pandemic. What we are saying is that since 2011, regular rail freight links between China and Europe have been established. In fact, trains are now being rerouted away from Ukraine. And rail freight experts are currently optimistic that the disruptions will be kept to the minimum. Already, freight charges have gone astronomically high because of the impact of the pandemic. And this situation, freight forwarders in this country have also been complaining. The businessmen and women, Ghana Union of Traders, that's GUTA members, have been complaining about increase in freight. That is what is happening as well. The third area that this will be impacted possibly is the freight area. Now, the rising oil prices due to the war, also a worry to shipping more generally. Freight rates are already extremely high and could rise even further. The fourth area is metals. Metals is the fourth area. In fact, Russia and Ukraine lead the global production of metals such as nickel, copper, and iron. They are also largely involved in the export and manufacture of other essential raw materials like palladium and platinum. Now, there are fears of sanctions on Russia that have increased the price of these metals. With palladium, for example, the current trading price of almost 2,700 per ounce is up over 80% before these sanctions were announced. So that's a direct impact. The fourth area, in fact, the fifth area is microchips. Microchips. Now, shortages of microchips were a major problem throughout 2021. Some analysts had predicted that this problem would ease in this year, but with the recent developments might dampen such optimism. As part of the sanctions towards Russia, the US has been threatening to cut off Russia's supply of microchips. But this rings hollow, and about 90% of neon, which is used for chip lithography, originates from Russia. 60% of this is purified by one company in Odessa. Alternative sources will require long-term investment prior to being able to supply the global market, microchips. So you see, chip manufacturers currently hold an excess of 2 to 4 weeks additional inventory. So if the 2 to 4 weeks additional inventory of microchips is exhausted, we'll have that problem. And for as long as we operate an import-led economy, Ghana will not be spared of this situation globally. Now, concerns have been raised about the impact it's going to be having on prices of petroleum products at the pumps. And already there have been predictions that we would have an increase in petrol and diesel in the next pricing window. Currently selling at 7 cedis 99 pesos per barrel. That's per liter, I beg your pardon. 7 cedis 99 pesos per liter. I'll be back shortly after this quick break. We will get into the impact on the prices of petroleum products, and then also what measures government can put in place to cushion the Ghanaian against the possible impact of the situation between Russia and Ukraine on the prices of petroleum products at the pumps in Ghana. And what about the TEMA refinery? What are the plans to turn around the fortunes of Tor? Stay with us. We'll be back shortly. Welcome back to Business Focus on TV3. We're live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. Now, with Russia being the second highest producer of the black gold, crude oil, on the world market, the war, which many believe will last in the coming months ahead, will automatically hit the market as a result of supply shortages in the world to force up prices, which are already increasing because of a number of factors. Already, price of petroleum products, particularly petrol and diesel, are inching closer to the 8 cedi mark. It's just about a peso shy from 8 cedis in this country and getting the economy heated. In fact, inflation is almost about 14%, and transport costs have been increased by between 15 and 30% from last week. What measures are in place to cushion the Ghanaian against the ripple effect of the Russia-Ukraine conflict? What about the TEMA refinery? What difference would a productive refinery have made in such turbulent times? I visited the TEMA refinery. Have a conversation on this. Take a look. Prices of petroleum products went up sharply at the pumps in the first pricing window of February. And as expected, the ripple effect has been felt in many parts of the economy. The prices of petroleum products in this country are directly impacted by three factors. One, the currency differentials. That's the city's performance against the various major trading currencies. And over time, we've seen how the city is depreciating on a weekly basis. Secondly, is the crude oil prices on the world market. A barrel of crude oil has crossed $100 per barrel because of the Russia-Ukraine crisis. Now, this is how much buying a liter of petrol at 7 cedis 99 pesos. This is the upper limit of 7 cedis 99 pesos. It's between 7 cedis 30 pesos and 7 cedis 99 pesos, depending on the oil marketing company that's selling or where you're buying your fuel. If you're buying the different types of fuel, there's an additional cost to it. So some types of fuel have gone past the 8 cedi mark. According to the National Petroleum Authority NPA price build-up published on its website, there are about 12 margins and levies on 1 liter of petrol or diesel that you buy. These are Energy Debt Recovery Levy, 49 pesos, Road Fund Levy, 48 pesos, Energy Fund Levy, 1 peso, Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy, 14 pesos, Sanitation and Pollution Levy, 10 pesos, Energy Sector Recovery Levy, 20 pesos, Special Petroleum Tax, 46 pesos, Primary Distribution Margin, 11 pesos, Boss Margin, 9 pesos, Fuel Market Margin, 5 pesos, Marketers Margin, 46 pesos, Dealers Margin, 30 pesos. If you add all 12 margins and levies imposed on the liter of petrol or diesel, you get a total of 4 cedis, 25 pesos. What this means is that with the price of a liter of petrol or diesel at the pumps selling at 7 cedis 99 pesos maximum, out of that, 4 cedis 25 pesos are all taxes. That is over 50% of the price of a liter of petrol or diesel at the pumps, all made up of taxes and levies. With the current tensions between Russia and Ukraine, which has led to crude oil prices increasing over $100 per barrel, should government consider reducing some taxes? Executive Director of the Institute for Energy Security, Nana Moisi the 7th, believes government should.
We're not saying introduce subsidies here in Ghana because we have a price, the present environment has been deregulated, which is good. We don't push for any subsidies. But then, what is the role of the Price Stabilization and Recovery Levy? It has not been able to effectively hold price. But the same fund was used by Egypt to hold their prices because they didn't just look at the levy, they look at the fund. So there's money sitting in there. We can tap into that to bring relief to Ghanaians. One positive thing for us to see price on international market go up is that because Ghana is also an oil exporting country, we'll get more revenue from our oil sales. The benchmark price set for 2022 was $61.23 per barrel. Today, it's more than $100 per barrel. Let's say it's $100 per barrel. you see a clear windfall of close to $38 per barrel. And if price will stay around the same margin, then of course we are making a lot of money from our crude oil sales. That can compensate for any removal or suspension of taxes of levy and margins on a liter of fuel.
But chair of the oil and gas sector of the Association of Ghana Industries, Kwame Jantua, argues government may not cut down taxes.
When you look at the price build-up, there's nothing in the price build-up that government can change today. And the only way, nothing. The thing they could probably look at is the UPPF. But even that, when the transporters are transporting refined petroleum products for bust to go to the depots, they need to be paid. There needs to be money there for them to be paid. Not unless we have a system where the refined petroleum products that come in go through a pipeline. And that's a different kettle of fish.
In the midst of all this, question is, what difference would a functioning refinery have made in such turbulent times? We're having to import finished product, and that has raised concerns. What are the plans to revive the fortunes of this refinery behind me here? The TEMA oil refinery, situated about 24 kilometers east of the capital, Accra, was originally named the Ghanaian Italian Petroleum Company and incorporated as a private limited liability company under the company's ordinance Cap 193 on December 12, 1960. It was 100% owned by the ENI Group of Italy.
Unfortunately, Tor is in a coma, and we don't know when it's coming back. If they were refining our indigenous crude, one advantage Tor will have gotten is the freight cost, because they will not be sourcing the crude oil from far. We have lost out on that. It will interest you to know that we say every economy, you've seen price in every country going up. It is not true. Prices of fuel in Egypt from February last year to this year are stagnant, almost stagnant.
In April 1977, the government of Ghana bought all the shares of the Ghanaian Italian Petroleum and became the sole shareholder. The name of the refinery was then changed to the TEMA Oil Refinery in 1991. The refinery covers a total area of 440,000 square meters.
President Nkrumah, he invited the Russians in to come and see whether Ghana had oil, and this was onshore. They drilled 9 wells and hit oil, but President Nkrumah told them to cap those wells because we didn't have the money then. The Cold War was raging. We had already got the Akosombo Dam, money for the Akosombo Dam, which was heavy money, and really we couldn't go into an oil production situation. And so in his mind, he felt Ghana one day would discover oil. And if we discover oil, in that criteria of being able to have our own, we need an oil refinery. Now, the thing about an oil refinery has got to do with the throughput and the feedstock. It's a structure that needs constant feedstock, constant oil. And so Tor, at that time, the 1960s, was a tolling facility where they were bringing in oil from all the places to refine it. And it was the only refinery in the entire continent of Africa at the time. And President Nkrumah didn't envisage Tor to be what he built it to be at that time, to be the same as today.
The products of the refining process were liquefied petroleum gas, LPG, gasoline, illuminating and cooking kerosene, aviation turbine kerosene, gas oil or diesel, and residual oil.
You are producing below your capacity and you are not competitive. Then the type of configuration that you have, what type of product can you crack within one barrel, can you get a lot of streams of products, LPG, naphtha, this all the way to coal tar? Then you know that you are creaming everything that you have to cream out of one product, out of one barrel. Tor cannot do that. So the configuration is a challenge, but that's even on the light side. But your production capacity per day, as is against installed, and your output, annual output, are key to determine how competitive you are.
In 1977, as part of the first phase of TEMA Refinery's expansion and modernization program, the crude distillation unit, CDU, was revamped to 45,000 barrels per stream. In 2002, as part of the second phase of the expansion and modernization program, a residual fluid catalytic cracking RFCC unit of capacity 14,000 barrels per day was commissioned.
You need to look at, so what happened after 1966 coming forward? Unfortunately, the kinds of investment that Tor needed wasn't put in. Two, politicians from that period onwards used as a political football, as if they didn't understand what the reason for Tor was. It didn't get the kind of feast, because at that time we didn't have oil.
The second phase began in April 1990 at an estimated cost of $36 million.
The area where Tor was placed is quite huge, and it was supposed to be placed near an area where we had fresh water. Adan was one place and TEMA was another, and TEMA seemed to have won that bid. So his intention was long term. Ghana will find oil one day and we'll have a refinery to refine our own petroleum. Also, apart from Ghana being able to refine their own, he was also looking at how Ghana can serve Africa with regards to refined petroleum products. So that was the objective of why President Nkrumah established Tor.
Ghana started commercial production of crude oil in December 2010. The country's Jubilee oil fields produces the high-grade sweet light crude.
Tor received their first parcel and the only parcel of indigenous crude from the tenfold. It was supplied by AOT aboard a vessel called MT Bodiera in December 2016. It was refined and was good. Since then, Tor has not been able to do anything like that. By proximity, crude supply from Ghana's fields to Tor will be less expensive than hauling it from far away Russia or Nigeria. So that's, freight costs can be, a form of cushioning for Tor pricing its products.
With the discovery of more oil wells and gas in Ghana since 2010, the company had the objective of positioning itself to expand and improve infrastructure to ensure reliability of petroleum products on the Ghanaian market and to export to the ECOWAS sub-region. The Ghana National Petroleum Corporation, GNPC, is also in the process of acquiring more commercial interest for Ghana in the oil sector.
Which has happened to Ghana, not just GNPC, by increasing our stake in the Jubilee fields, Jubilee and 10 fields. Yeah, at least a chance to buy 7% more increases Ghana's stake to about 20%, which hitherto was not the case. There is a commercial interest, and for us in GNPC, it's a good thing. Once we can pay the cost associated with production, we get a free-flowing cash that we can use for so many things. I think the president has done very well in getting us to move that direction. And this is very consistent with what GNPC is trying to do with the acre block and other matters. So it's a first step, and I think there's justification for what we are doing, and we'll continue to do it and improve in what we do. And it gives us additional basis that we can leverage on to borrow. We are going to be part of the joint operating group as part of the joint operating group by this acquisition. So we're going to learn something from there. But then I think our eyes are on the bigger picture that we've painted over the last few months.
Is there a plan for the TEMA refinery to leverage on this? Unfortunately, a number of factors, including the politics and recent reports of corruption at the TEMA refinery.
We know the interim management committee set up by the president to look into the affairs of Tor, develop a strategy for, going forward. They were given a period of about 4 months to do and deliver their results. It's been barely a year. There's no other news we've received from this interim management committee aside the story of some thefts that they published. And you see that it was calculated that at the end of the 4 or 5 months, that's when they released that news. For you to get a feeling that something is being done at all to unearth a rot here and there. For that very situation, we already know. It's a public knowledge. It's nothing new. But then a strategy to turn around a key entity like Tor that can be placed in the equation of our fuel supply and price risk. That very strategy is missing. There is nothing new in there. We have not heard any positive thing in there. It's just the normal internal wrangling as to who will be the MD of Tor. Getting news that some members of the interim management committee want to be part of management or the board. And so you clearly see a system where there's total confusion.
For some time now, has not refined crude as it was built to do.
The last time Tor did crack crude was, let's say about 9 months ago, roughly, let me put it that way. Barely a year ago, that's the last time. And you see, if you have a refinery, what makes it profitable is hinged on about 3 key factors. Your economies of scale is a overarching factor. But then within that economies of scale, you should ensure that you have good production capacity to be competitive. Some refineries are cracking 1 million barrels a day. You are cracking 25,000 barrels a day. The overhead cost, it will impact on you negatively. And so Tor's installed capacity has plunged from 45,000 to 25,000 because only one furnace is working. That is a disadvantage for Tor. We think that Tor has a role to play, and just that we are not living the Nkrumah dream. It has fizzled out. And from what we are picking on the ground, Tor is almost dead.
Government had in time past made a proposal to convert the refinery into a tank farm. But this is the Energy Minister, Dr. Matthew Poku-Prempeh, outlining government's plan for the refinery during his vetting.
Tor and its crippling debts and its money, infrastructure issues, equipment issues, it's all over. And we need, as a country, to only know one thing. Since the Fourth Republic, every president has talked about value addition of our natural resource. It just so happens that the last natural resource the good Lord gave us, which is oil, we already have a refinery to be able to add value. But since, interestingly, since we started mining oil commercially, the refinery seems to be losing its ability to do its work. So we should collectively, apart from the debt overhang, which is nearly $250 million, we should collectively decide that we don't want to lose Tor. We have to find the right partnerships, managerial, infrastructure, equipment, to enable Tor to work, and also invite other refineries into the system to make it even better. But like you said, the challenges are everywhere. People owe them, they are not able to collect. They owe them, they also owe people who are on their necks trying to even take part of their business.
John Jenapo is ranking member of the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament.
We have crude oil here in Ghana. We produce about 180,000 barrels per day, close to 200,000. That alone is more than enough to meet our daily demand. Tor can process about 65,000 barrels of crude every day. I do admit that Tor has challenges, but
and this is the question that remains unanswered. What is the turnaround plan for the TEMA refinery? The full version of this you see at 10:30 p.m. today. But questions about the interventions and the cushioning government to put in place to ensure that Ghanaians are not really impacted by what's happening in Russia and Ukraine also is a matter of concern. I want to say thank you so much for staying with us here on Business Focus. We're live on TV3, also live on TV3 Ghana on Facebook and DSTV channel 279. My name is Alfred Okansi. On behalf of the rest of the team, do have a good evening.